This lecture will cover the various marketing and design tools available that are both paid and free, but primary focus will be on the free apps and utilizing them to create layouts in social media and other media in order to help your library marketing. With marketing and design, I have to assume that your library has either a very small budget or no budget for marketing. If you are a public or a school library, you also likely have to share your website with the city, county, or school. The same with academic libraries, you have to share it with the university. Regulations might also apply to how you can market. For example, you may be constricted or may need permission to have a social media account and be regulated in what you can and can't post. This especially applies to school libraries where you have minors. As such, you want to consider your limitations and what you can market. For example, if you plan to post about an event, and you hoped to include a picture of a student, but this student was a minor. This may not be permitted without the parent's permission. These are the types of things you need to plan for, so be sure to check with your library or your entity, that is, your school board or your principal or your department, on what those instructions entail. If you have permission to create a social media account but have not yet done so, go ahead and create at least an Instagram or a Facebook business page so that you will be prepared for your exercise later on. When you are getting ready to create a design, know that you do not always have to have the best or the most expensive software to accomplish your goals. There are many free or low cost applications that can help you to create your designs, many of which are not directly inside social media. Yes, you can upload pictures and create content directly in your social media platform, but I actually recommend that you create accounts for free web based applications, including Canva and Later, especially Canva because this allows access for the tools you need to create designs, from social media to posters to newsletters to any printed material. If you do have a marketing or a design budget, I would recommend to subscribe to at least two applications through Adobe, that is Photoshop and Adobe InDesign at minimum, for image editing and layout design. Adobe Illustrator is also a good illustration or vector software, but Photoshop and InDesign is really the standard for your more advanced tools for design and image editing that you'll find most useful. Later is also a free web based platform that allows you to schedule your social media posts across multiple platforms, including Facebook via creating a Facebook business page, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. But there is a paid option. The free option is great for creating up to 30 posts per month for each platform, so you want to make sure to sign up for the free option. Other tools that are similar do include a paid subscription, and they include probably the most well known, which is called Hootsuite, and another well known, which is called Buffer. These are both web based. Hootsuite is pretty well known, and when you first sign up, you can sign up for the lowest cost, and when the trial period ends, you can downgrade it to a free version. However, you want to be sure to keep track of when that trial period ends to make sure it doesn't automatically roll into a paid subscription. I'm going to cover the Later application in the instructional video, but you are welcome to look into any other applications that suit you best. For the purpose of this lecture as well as the instructional video, I will refer to the most common ones, which would be Instagram, Facebook, and I'm also going to go into Canva and Later. Don't feel like you have to have every single social media platform and have to post every single day in order to be successful. Use what you know is best for your library and the platform that is used most by your patrons. Also, remind yourself that social media is not the only platform that you use. Remember, in the past weeks, you have learned multiple avenues in which to get the word out or promote your library. This includes social media, but also includes word of mouth as well as printed materials. So, your goal with social media and your library is not going to be the same as, say, being a famous social media influencer. Remember that you are trying to send a message to your community. That likely will not include millions of people. Therefore, as you begin to use social media, be realistic about how many people that you expect to reach. The tried and true apps that will work likely or work best for you community will be Facebook and Instagram. This is because these apps have stood the test of time. They've been around for many years, and the platforms are most well known across various age groups. Notice that I have not mentioned apps like Snapchat or TikTok. Even though your younger audiences likely use TikTok, this may not necessarily translate what you are trying to do. If TikTok is a platform that you want to try out, then great, but for standard messages that both inform and can be creative, Facebook and Instagram are really the main apps that won't be as time consuming, and it's a platform people are used to, and it is easily translatable with other apps such as Canva and Later in order to create and schedule your posts. Pinterest is also another platform that has been around for many years and is pretty easy to use. However, you likely will not find as many users in your community. Twitter is also great to use if you primarily focus on text. But just like Pinterest, your community is less likely to be a part of Twitter in comparison to Facebook and Instagram. In addition, Twitter does not provide the ideal platform when your intent is to connect your message along with visual aids. So, coming from the perspective of ease of use and likelihood of gaining more followers from your community, Instagram and Facebook are likely the platforms that you should use. So, when you're creating social media accounts, just remember that the name should also reflect your library or as close to it as possible. As such, for example, when you are creating your social media account name, say your library name as a username is already taken. Try something similar, such as putting the word the in it, or shortening one of the names, or putting a well known number after it. But first, try to put the word the in front of it because it will be easier to remember for your community. As you begin to create posts, it is very easy to spend a lot of time on just one post, especially in the beginning as you are learning how to create the post using Canva or as you are developing your content. Know the time in learning the design aspect is worth it because as you develop your skills, the time it takes to create a post will go down. In the beginning, for example, you could be devoting 30 minutes in creating one post. Knowing that people will likely gloss over it or just take a second or two to read it, or knowing that you don't have that many followers, it is very easy to question if that time devoted to create that message, to create the content, to send that message out is really worth it. It is also important to not judge how much time you spend based on how many likes you get or how many followers. The time is worth it if you're using it well to send your message of value to the library out. Try not to make comparisons, especially in the beginning. When it comes to followers, know that not everyone is going to follow you right away, and it will take time to get people to follow you. But remember also that it always starts with just one person. Realistically, the patrons that you are trying to reach is going to be much smaller compared to even the amount of people in your city. So it will take time to build, and you will be limited in how many people will follow you just because you have a smaller community base. This is not meant to sound negative, rather, it is meant to help set realistic expectations on how many followers you expect or anticipate. For example, if you are a school library and you serve 1,000 students, a good number of followers to start with would be, say, 100 or 10% of that. You might be thinking, that number is really low. Why is it so low? Your social media is a marketing tool, and people may already be following 100 other people or more. So remember that they could see this as another thing that they have to join. As such, when you apply marketing standards, you apply what is called return on investment or ROI. This is a term that is often used in reference to what your profit is in comparison to running Facebook ads, paying for subscriptions, and time. This is often compared to in business or marketing campaigns where you spend money on it. But your profit is not in money, it is in people. And it is not always proved with millions of followers. In your case, your return is the people that follow you, that understand, appreciate, and value the library. The investment is your design skill and time that you put in to create the posts, answering patron questions that put comments in, and define that library value in your posts. So over time, more people will follow you. But just remember that when you create social media posts, this is based on your mission, teaching your patrons, and placing value on the library. It may seem overwhelming to plan and know what to write for your posts, but remember that social media is only one platform that you use. Look around you. What have you already created, or what do you already do? The content is already there for you based on what the library does, the events and services that you offer, and the library mission. So base your posts off of this and know that it is okay to repeat yourself. Creating 2 or 3 posts out of 1 month or 30 days about information literacy is okay. Yes, make the post with a different picture. Maybe you're posting a different fact about information literacy, about the topic, or how the library helps. The topic or the main topic is on information literacy, and it's the same, but what you say in it could be slightly different. That repetition in itself is what makes people remember, and that repetition is okay. So it could start with one teacher following you if you're a school library, and say those teachers' students follow that teacher. It could start with a city council member, or your dean, or your chair. Know that marketing has to come full circle, and that full circle takes time. Remember what you learned for the first 2 weeks with intentional marketing and apply it here. For example, ask a teacher to tell their students about the new library Instagram. Ask a well known patron to follow you and ask them to tell their friends. It does not all have to fall on your shoulders. Relying on other people to tell others about you is part of your strategy that will help relieve any other pressure that you place on yourself. Finally, how do you know it's working? It is working if you slowly gain more followers, if you start to get comments on your posts, and if your participation in your library goes up. And this is not going to be instantaneous, it will occur slowly. You can also ask people how they heard about an event or a service. Survey them to see if they heard of it from Instagram or Facebook. For example, you promote story time once every couple weeks on your social media. Before you post your post, you had 10 children attending. But say over the course of 3 months, your numbers slowly go up from 12 to 14 or 15. This is a steady and realistic growth. How else do you know it's working? It's not always in attendance numbers, but in what people say. You may hear of people talking about your latest post. Recognizing the multiple ways that your social media can positively impact people is how you know it's working. Using Canva allows you to create several different types of designs. The primary purpose of it for you likely will be to create social media posts. However, for your other marketing tools, such as flyers, brochures, whatever else you create for your library, you can use utilizing Canva. Now, Canva is a free web-based application that you should sign up for if you have not already. And the great thing about Canva is it makes it very easy for you to create designs, either on your own or by using many of their templates that are available according to the media type that you are creating. For example, they could have hundreds or thousands of templates for social media. The same will apply for newsletters or flyers, and you can even search by category for suggested templates. Obviously, you can look for any templates you want, but what I would suggest is as you develop your design skills, which will mainly apply in this weekly exercise, I would encourage you first to get used to Canva as a platform to create at least one or two different media types so that you understand how their templates work. Utilizing what you've learned in previous weeks, such as applying the elements and principles of design, you will notice that many of their templates apply those same things. Now, the great thing about it is it gives you a great basis for also advancing your skills because it gives you the option to use templates or create one on your own using a blank canvas. When you go into Canva, they will have a main button called Create a Design. And when you click on that, they will have pre-sized options for you according to the type of the design that you're going to create. For example, you will see one called Instagram post. If you open that, then it'll have it sized for you already. You have a brochure, have it sized for you already according to 8.5 by 11 inches. So when you go to that, it will automatically load as a blank canvas, but to the left side menu, you will see all their main tools, which includes being able to insert their stock photography under pictures. You can also upload your own through the upload feature. They also have elements, which includes shapes and common things such as, say you want a talking bubble or a thinking bubble or a heart or whatever the case may be. And it also has font styles. And so Canva, I recommend as a tool, especially if you don't have a marketing budget, because it is probably the most comparable free application that you can use when compared to a more robust program such as Adobe InDesign, which is their layout program. Obviously, there are going to be some limitations if you've used Adobe InDesign before, but Canva really is the best tool out there, especially since you get to use it for free. Now, obviously, there's going to be a paid subscription when you first sign up, but they will have a free option for you, and there's no real tricks there, such as you have to convert to a free after the free trial. At least not as of this time. In the future, I can't foresee, but for now, I would again encourage you to create a Canva account and start playing around with it. Notice the features on what you can and can't do, especially with the shapes, the text boxes. Notice how you can place, when you click on a shape or a picture or text, you can place it in order. For example, say you insert a text box, and that text box is placed underneath a color box. So when you click on that text box, it has the option to place it in the front of that so that it's overlaying the actual box. And that's just one example. But as you use the templates in Canva, you should, as you develop your design skills and start to notice what's a good design, what's a bad design, how to use the tools in there to simply create a design. Start to be a little bit more independent in your designs, in that try to first create a blank canvas. See how you do. Look at their templates and try to emulate what you like, what you don't like. Say you will like one template, but you don't like one aspect of another. So by utilizing the tools on your own, you can kind of create in between of that to meet in the middle. So by utilizing Canva, this gives you great access. Some of you may feel intimidated by just the word design. Some of you may think, I'm not that creative of a person. How am I supposed to do this? You've been taking this course for the last 3 weeks and we're into our last week. You're either taking it because this is part of your job already and you're trying to figure it out, or you want it to be part of your job because of your high interest in it. Either way, you need to get the understanding that it's not always about what you can and can't do. It's having the tools available so that you can do them. So take advantage of all the tools that are available to you, and that, of course, would be starting with Canva. When you are thinking of all of the content that you have to create, it is very easy to get overwhelmed. It's very easy to think, I have to create 5 new posts and they all have to be on the same topic or different topics, and that's a lot of content to create. I feel like I'm writing a book over the course of a month with all the content I have to create. Or you're not sure where to start. You're not sure where to end. You're not sure how much information to put, when to put it, and what platforms to use. Do I just do social media? Do I make a flyer? Do I put it on the website? So it's very easy, especially with the beginning level of you just starting out in marketing and design, to just get overwhelmed. But the idea here is to try not to allow yourself to get there. Yes, it is very easy, but you always want to just look around you and say, hey, what is the library doing now? What is it that I can help promote that already exists? What content can I use that already exists? Say you created a flyer a month ago about a service that is available all the time. Take that flyer, take that content, and just reformat it. Maybe shorten some words here and there, and create a social media post from it. The same thing can happen when, say, you know that you're creating a brand new flyer and you're going to send it out to your community. Even if it's a digital flyer, you are still going to send it out as an email, maybe to parents, to students, to your community. Maybe you have that capability through your library software to send out emails. But when you create that content, it's very easy to just say, okay, I have to create a flyer, I have to create a social media post, I have to create a poster. This is going to be so time consuming. How am I supposed to handle all of this? This is like a full-time job. And of course it can be if you allow it to be, but many libraries and many librarians, many library staff don't have that luxury. They kind of have to put the time in when they can. So how do you allow yourself to not get overwhelmed? Don't get overwhelmed by the thought process of how much you have to do. Just take it step by step. And when it comes to not overthinking it, that is not so much related to how much you have to do. You know you have to do it eventually. You know, especially if it's time sensitive, if it's an event or service that only happens once a year, then you know that that may be put ahead of your other tasks. So make sure that you prioritize. And when it comes to trying not to overthink it, it can be thought of as in more than one aspect. Not overthinking it as far as how much you have to do. Create a simple checklist for yourself, create a schedule. But you can also overthink it as far as what content to put where. And that would be referred to as, say, content overload or information overload. You've learned a lot the past 4 weeks. So it's really easy to just get overwhelmed with all this information. But this is going to be an ongoing process. It is never really going to end. So the sooner you put that perspective into you, the better, so that you know that this is going to be just a learning process. Don't think that right out of the bat you have to say, I'm a master of this, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it great right from the beginning. It's a learning process, just like anything else new that you learn. So, when it comes to content or information overload, think of it as how much information are you going to present to your patrons? And how much is too much information? How much do I have to prepare for? Think of it as what is the main information that they need to know, and end it there. If they want to know information or more information, then they can ask. They can email us, they can call us, they can come visit us and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this event? Can you tell me a little bit more about this service? That is where word of mouth comes in. So when it comes to content or information overload, don't solely rely on one platform to present all of the information. Know what's appropriate in how much information to present and where. For a social media post, it's going to be brief, straight to the point. For a flyer, it's going to be a little bit more information. It'll have the title, the date, the information, where they should go, and maybe a little paragraph about the event with some pretty graphics. If it's a brochure, or if it's like a booklet, or even if it's a web page, that's obviously going to contain all the information practically that you need to present. So it could be a couple of paragraphs, it could be a full page if it's a super detailed thing that they need to know. So when the information is presented to your patrons, you don't want to overload them. You also don't want to overload yourself in that I have to create a page of content. No, be realistic. Unless someone has specifically told you, you have to create a whole page, single spaced, of content. Then create it according to realistically you think what people will read, according to the platform. Now, a good example would be if you know you have a main event coming, if you have a main service that's just a staple at your library that's not really going to change, but no flyer has been created and it's well established. So you endeavor to create a flyer. The flyer that you create will establish the content that you have. So you're not rewriting it over and over and over again. You're pretty much writing it once, and then you are modifying or shortening it according to the platform. When it comes to fixing mistakes, no mistakes will happen. Even if you have years of experience, they will still happen. So don't beat yourself up when that happens. How you fix them really is how you address it according to the platform as well. So when it comes to anything on the web or social media or digital, it's a lot easier to fix because you can just, on a web page, edit and update the text. Same for social media. You may not be able to exactly take it, edit the text unless it's a caption rather than the image. But if there is a mistake, you may just need to take the social media post off and then replace it with the corrected one. You may even need to address the correction And most of the time, your correction will be, say, a typo. Say you have AM instead of PM for a time. Say you put the address and you forget the zip code. Say you have a typo in the name of the event. Just know that that will always happen. And depending on the platform you use and your application that you build it in, it's just a simple fixing. Once you fix it, just if someone notices it, just say, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize that there was a mistake. I will fix it." You're human. You're not expected to be perfect all the time. So that goes to the don't get overwhelmed part. Try not to expect to be perfect all the time. When it comes to the next aspect of time management and automating your social media posts, this will also help you in not getting overwhelmed. When you plan to develop your marketing and design for your library, creating the content, creating the posts, creating the flyers, whatever it is, you have to plan it well so that, again, you don't get overwhelmed. So, how you plan it well is by using the tools that you have available. When it comes to time management, just realistically put out there, how long do I need to create the content? Do I need an hour? Do I need 2 hours? Devote that time and just know you may not be able to do it all in one sitting. You may need to come back and forth and back and forth. So just plan for it well for when you have to write that content. When you actually design it, that could take you another hour too. But just know again that you may not be able to finish it all in one sitting because in the library world, you're constantly interrupted. And when it comes to automating, this will also help you with your time management in that using an application such as Later, or if you have the advantage of a budget where you can have Hootsuite or Buffer or some other similar tool, automating it or scheduling them ahead of time means that perhaps you could time your or have better time management in that, say, you devote half of a day to just create social media posts for the next 2 weeks. You devote that time to creating those posts in Canva. You schedule them in Later or Hootsuite, whatever scheduling platform you use. And once you schedule them, you can forget about it for the next 2 weeks. You can even have your application just saved as a tab on your internet browser. And when you have it saved there, then you can just periodically open it as a reminder to yourself, oh, where am I at with those posts right now? How much time do I need to devote next week or the week after? How long do I have until I have to create more posts? So by planning it out with a schedule, that also takes more pressure off of you. So the idea here again is just to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed with content overload, presenting too much information to your patrons, making yourself think that you have to create a lot of content. Unless you're specifically told to, just remember, whatever information is necessary, that is the information people will read. The last thing I'm going to address has to do with what content you create. It's really important, especially in our society right now, to know where you draw the line on what you create and what you don't create, what you address and what you don't address. It's very easy being surrounded by news, by your community, your work. You're going to hear a lot of chatter about what's going on in the world. So when it comes to addressing that, just know that with your, especially your social media platform, with your personal account, you can address it pretty much any way you want because you have free speech. But when you are creating content for your library, just know that that likely is not your role. You are creating posts as a representative of the library. In other words, your posts should contain what the library stands for. Even if you disagree with it, your job in marketing for your library is to have good representation. And that good representation, generally speaking, is going to be on the neutral side. Yes, libraries stand for access to information. We want to provide you with that information. And sometimes lines are blurred to where you may think, well, my job is to provide them with that information. So I feel like I should address it in our social media platform. That could end up getting you or the library into some trouble because, yes, we provide them with access to that information, but it is freedom of access. They can take it and interpret it however they want. Your role is to simply provide it. So, what's the difference between providing and giving an opinion? Let me give you an example. Say something happens in the news, or say something happens in your community that is interpreted on both sides, say political affiliation, or maybe not even politics. Just there's one side over another and they're arguing with each other. What if you were going to post something that is trying to persuade people to go to one side? That is not really appropriate for your social media platform or any really strong platform that you use for your library. Personal is okay, but when you're representing your library, just remember that you are representing an entity, you are representing their mission. And if you try to sway people one way or the other, it can be interpreted how you did not intend. And so, to prevent that from happening, it is better to just not say anything that is opinion based. But what if you question, well, how do I address it, period? What do I do? The best way to address it is say there's an argument of one side or over another, whatever the case is. Just imagine one in your head or one that's happening. And you're thinking, how can my library address it? The best way to address it is as positive as possible and as neutral as possible. So say you say, we are thinking of everyone right now as our community struggles with such and such. And you could just leave it at that. That would be a way in which you would not be opinion based and you are addressing both sides without trying to agree or disagree. Because some people may also get upset and say, hey, how come you haven't addressed it? How come I'm not seeing any activity? How come I'm not seeing any acknowledgement of what's happening? So you may be obligated to address something that's happening. But how you address it is best to, again, be neutral because it may backfire on you. And then people may associate your library with what they interpret as another affiliation that you never intended. So, as the library person in creating responses, you just want to make sure that you are neutral so that everyone from the community knows that you did acknowledge whatever happened and that you are thinking of everyone in the community. So that really is probably the best way to approach a conversation or something that has happened. And I'm not saying anything that has happened in particular because everything happens every day and it could be something good, could be something bad. It could be how certain people interpret it. So you representing your library, you just have to make sure if it's necessary to address something, address it so that people know, yes, you're acknowledging it, if necessary. And if not necessary, then it's not necessary for you to post it or address it. But just know that if you're ever questioning, then just say, stay on task. What is the library's mission and how can I project that in a positive light so that my community knows that we are there for them, whatever the case may be. When you are marketing for your library, you want to make sure that there is growth happening, that you are developing your skills and gaining followers through social media, that your attendance levels are going up, that more people are aware of what the library does. They know the library's mission. So, how do you do that with marketing? Well, employing just simple tasks depends on the platform that you're using. Remember in the previous works or the previous lectures where I discussed intentional marketing. There are several different methods in which these will allow you to grow. And when it comes to growth in marketing itself, the slow growth tends to have better results in that as you grow more slowly, those followers that you have, your slower growth, eventually, those are the people that will follow you, that they will support you for longer periods versus, say, you had a special event and you did a social media post and all of a sudden you gained 1,000 followers. That would be amazing. But over time, you may start to lose those followers because those followers were event based or one time based. But as you grow your marketing over time using and employing all the marketing methods such as word of mouth, social media, flyers, whatever other methods you want to use, just know that longer term results or growth over a slower period is often better in the library world because those are the people that stay with you. So, how do you practically do that? Well, again, it depends on the marketing method that you are employing. With word of mouth, it is important to have it try to be natural in conversation. Unless you are giving a presentation that is purposeful, most of the time you are just talking to people. So, how do you give the library mission, or you interpret it, or you promote your library in a way that is not sales pitchy, that makes people turn away? Well, you just try to have it as a natural conversation, or you provide the benefits that it gives. And then the people, they can interpret it however they want. They could take advantage of it or not. You just let them decide. Try not to press yourself into thinking, I have to convince every single person how great my library is. And I want to try to get attendance numbers up by 50%. That is setting yourself up for something that is unrealistic. So when it comes to, say, word of mouth or just talking to people, just have it be natural. When it comes to more explicit forms, such as social media or flyers or anything digital, these are going to be a little bit more apparent. So you want to gain familiarity with those types of methods. For, say, web pages, you have the option to insert search engine optimization or SEO methods through how many keywords you put in. So if you're not able to do it yourself and you have to provide that information to your IT person, or if you do have the option to put it in either method, they may ask, well, what keywords do you want? You are thinking of all the words that could be interpreted with whatever it is you're putting on that website. That's where keywords come in. And that will help with growth when people do a general internet search. Whereas social media, you want to put hashtags. Those are kind of like social media's terms of keywords, only you put a hashtag in front of it. And if you're ever wondering, how do hashtags work? How are they created? It's as easy as just typing it in. So when someone is looking at a hashtag or looking for a certain hashtag, if you place your social media post with that hashtag, then that means that your post will come up when they search for it. Or if they were to click on it directly from your social media post, then all the other posts with that same hashtag will come up. So if they have clicked on somebody else's post and you have that same hashtag, then they may see your post and then start following. So it's important in social media, and you can also place them on digital flyers or emails so that people can refer to them. But hashtags work that way in that is their form of kind of searching through keywords. With alt text, this may not be as well known, but you also want to make sure, especially in the library world and in education, there are going to be people with learning disabilities or just other disabilities where they may be using like a screen reader if they're visually impaired, or they just use it, period. The alt text is a general description of what your social media post is. So your caption is your text where you're telling more information about it. But underneath that should be your hashtag, and underneath your hashtag should be your alt text. And the alt text is a description of here's what you are looking at for the image. This is especially good for those that are visually impaired. And that, say you have a picture of a book and it's a quote along with it. So you would describe it as picture of book, and then you would say what the quote is with the author. So the idea here with alt text is you are accommodating those that may have visual impairment. So you are trying to recognize and acknowledge your different types of audiences and trying to gain traction by utilizing the simple tools that are available by implementing keywords and hashtags. Also know your message. Depending on the approach that you have, or you may have a lot of freedom with your social media account for your library. Yes, you know to stay on task, to stay on your library mission, but you also have to think of your audience. So, how do you have a good balance with that? For example, say you're a school library, or say you're a college library, and even if you're a public library, your primary audience is, say, younger people. With younger people, you know that what will gain more attention from them is, say, doing a meme. And when you do a meme or something funny, then they will say, start following you, because you want to gain their attention and you want to know or have them know what the library is about. So you are trying to appeal to them. So know your message, but know that you can do it, and it doesn't always have to be in a serious way. You can put memes out there, you can put inspirational quotes, you can put original content. It doesn't always have to be one straight tone. If it's all serious, then it may just appeal to one audience. But what if you're not appealing to your main audience? So you have to find a happy balance between showing that seriousness and the library's mission, but you can also not be afraid of showing a sense of humor while still interpreting the library mission. And so that is also how you grow your audience. In this final lecture slide, all of things that you have learned throughout this class have been the theories, the principles that guide marketing and design. You have your practical application. So how do you grow your audience? You grow your audience by employing everything that you have learned. And it's not going to be able to be employed all at once. It'll be over time. It's always going to be an ongoing process. But how you grow your audience is by just, again, staying on your library mission, knowing that your library mission is to help people, to educate them, to teach them about information literacy, to have access to information. So you grow your audience over time by getting the word out, talking to people, going through your social media and understanding how to use those tools and how to send that message out appropriately according to platform. You create a flyer, you create a brochure. Whatever your platform is, there's always going to be that intention. And you grow your audience through all of those methods because they know that your intention is to help them. Your library is there to serve your community, and you are there as a library representative to implement your library mission. And you are doing that through your marketing and design to help your community grow.